A story of survival. A 30-year-old woman with stage 3 colon cancer shares her story tonight with our Francesca Brown, hoping to inspire others to fight the good fight of faith.
At 30, Andrea had her colon and her rectum completely removed after unfortunately discovering she had stage 3 colon cancer. Her ordeal started the day before her birthday when she discovered blood in her stool. However, after going to a doctor and performing numerous tests, Andrea says everything came back normal. It wasn't until Chadwick Boseman, Mr. Black Panther, passed away from colon cancer in August that Andrea says she identified with much of his symptoms, so she decided to go back to the doctor.
We did a colonoscopy September 16th, and after I did the colonoscopy, he found polyps in my colon, and immediately he took biopsies and tested them. A week later, they came back positive for cancer.
She says from that moment, her life changed.
The day that I actually got the call, I was going through a lot because that very moment I was taking my mom to the hospital. She suffered from an asthma attack. And when I got the call confirming that the polyps came back positive and they found colon cancer, I broke down in tears. It was heartbreaking. I mean, it was like in that moment, I knew my life would never be the same. Everything changed in that moment. But I equally had to suck back my emotions because I had a responsibility to my mom to make sure I get her to the hospital.
Andrea says she immediately stopped feeling sorry for herself and decided to fight.
The first thing that they scheduled was an immediate surgery for October 8th. And they removed my entire colon and my rectum. The surgery was 10 hours long and it was a complete success. And following my surgery, they gave me a temporary ileostomy bag because they created a makeshift rectum to attach to my anus because I no longer have a rectum anymore.
However, she says living with an ileostomy bag came with its own challenges.
The wafer, that's the protection that attaches the bag to my skin, that's when it breaks. And what happened was it caused a rash on my skin, and literally the stool was draining. So I found myself one weekend where I was running out of wafers, running out of bags, and the stores were closed. The only person on the island that I could get the product that I needed from, she wasn't open, and I found myself with a limited amount of wafers and bags, and so it was just flowing all weekend.
2 months later, she had a second surgery and no longer needed the bag. However, she says that's when she had to start chemotherapy, which she says was extremely difficult.
Chemo sucks. It really does. And I went into it hopeful, positive, and expecting the best as much as I can, keeping a positive attitude. But the reality is it makes you sick, you know, all the time. And it's just a lot to deal with because nobody wants to be sick, but the reality is chemo makes you sick all the time. The feeling of nausea, vomiting. Fortunately, I've been able to eat and keep my food down, but chemo is very grueling.
And while Andrea is on the road to recovery, she still has a long way to go and hopes to inspire others through sharing her story.
That there was a lot of information I didn't know, and I found myself answering a lot of questions. People were asking me about my diagnosis because I tested positive for a gene as well, familial adenomatous polyposis, and I started to educate myself on my condition. And since I started to educate myself, I realized there's a need. There's a need to bring awareness to the reality that colon cancer is something that can affect anybody. It happened to me, a 30-year-old with absolutely no history of colon cancer.
You can follow her journey on she'ssurviving.com. She also started a GoFundMe page to assist with her medical expenses. Francesca